Well, say good morning. If I sound a little nervous, I'm not. I'm just, I'm just really excited to be here.
So our next award is the Lawrence Foreman Award. It goes to Haverford athletes who professionally or voluntarily have devoted a significant amount of time and energy to the betterment of society. The award honors Lawrence Foreman, class of 1960, one of the outstanding athletes in the history of the college, committed his life both to the betterment of humankind and to international understanding. Please join me in congratulating Anjan Chatterjee, class of 1980, as this year's well-deserving honoree. In recognition of Anjan's athletic history here at the college, we requested that Danielle Lynch, our Director of Athletics, join us to celebrate him today. Danielle joined Haverford College in 2022 with over 20 years of experience in college coaching and athletics administration. If you'd both please come forward.
If I sound nervous, it's because I am. How lovely to be in the warm embrace of family, friends, and Haverford. I want to give a special thanks to the loudest voice in this room, Jerry Lederer, who the word on the street was the force behind this nomination, and he corralled the rest of the track team to support me. And while we heard about the deliberations of the Alumni Awards Committee, they didn't have a chance. Jerry is an indomitable force. I work down the street at the University of Pennsylvania. My title is Professor of Neurology, Psychology, and Architecture. And I, in 2018, started a research center, the Penn Center for Neuroaesthetics, the first center of its kind in the world. So you might be scratching your head and say, neurology, architecture, neurology, aesthetics. I'm a category mistake. But the kind of category mistake that Haverford produces. I would be remiss if I didn't make a nod to the elephant in the room and the elephant all around us, which has even precipitated into direct attacks on President Wendy Raymond. We live in an age of anxiety, of anger, of alienation. We live in an age in which technology seems to have turned a corner where it's hurting us more than helping us. There's a precedent for this sense, which goes back over 200 years in the wake of the Industrial Revolution, when the world had become nasty and brutish. And at that time, in reaction to the disorientation, dislocation that many people felt, one can draw a direct line to colonialism and slavery from that period. In reaction to all of this, there was a movement, a resistance that started in Germany, extended to England, and then came to America. It was the Romantics. And one thing about the Romantics, and there are very different views of what the Romantics were about and how they approached the world, but a common theme across all of this was the need to return to what was valuable, to aesthetics, to our humanity, to our emotions, and to connect with nature. And what I would like to suggest is that we are now in a similar moment. And so a neurologist who spends most of his time thinking about aesthetics, I'm one of many, and that there is a growing movement, which I've called the New Romantics. And it's a kind of resistance, not the in-your-face sort of political resistance, but kind of a cultural resistance against a world that has once again turned nasty and brutish, with the goal of trying to introduce, trying to reawaken, trying to revive a sense of joy, of wonder, of awe, and a way to bring enchantment back into the world. So I'm a category mistake. It is in large part, by virtue of being shaped by my experience at Haverford. I was a philosophy major, and many of you know at the time, in the late 70s, what a strong and dominant, powerful department philosophy was. Dick Bernstein, who was the chair at the time, used to say, you should read like a scavenger, which is read widely, take what you can from it. And this is the kind of model in which disciplinary boundaries were token boundaries. You crossed any boundary you wanted, what you were interested in, how do you understand something, and it didn't matter what context, what domain, what discipline that information came from. And then Paul Desjardins was a huge influence on me, that many of you know. He is someone who truly believed that thinking was better done in community. He also had the idea that if you worked physically well together, manually, you would also think better together. It's an idea that I've kept with me over all of these years. But this is an award that is rooted in the life of an athlete, and my time in the track and field team under the tutelage of Tom Donnelly was the other fundamental foundation of my experience at Haverford. And what a privilege, what a privilege, what a privilege to have been here at the beginning of the Renaissance of Haverford track and field, which it has been for the last 50 years. What a privilege it is to have had the kind of classmates and trackmates that I've had. And what a privilege it has been to know Tom Donnelly, a man who has dedicated 50 years to this institution. Who does that? 50 years. A couple of things about Tom and the way in which he has served as a model for leadership for me. One is he had this amazing capacity to make every single person on the team feel valued. Whether you were a star, whether you were not a star, whether you were a scrub, it didn't matter. You felt valued. And when you think of community with a purpose, that becomes a team. And so he really had this sense of we were a community, we had a purpose, and every single person mattered. But there's another thing about Tom that I take away. Academia is a rough business, as some of you know. Tom was a very competitive man. This may not be obvious if you haven't spent a lot of time with him. He's an extremely competitive man. But it is a competition of a certain kind. It is a competition in which he strove for excellence, and the competition was not about being better than the next person or the person next to you. The competition was about making use of that other person to be a better version of yourself. And that's a kind of competition I think we can all learn from, we can all try to emulate. And again, I'm grateful for having had a role model like Tom, like my track mates, and like my experience at Haverford as a central guiding principle for the last 45 years. So once again, thank you. Thank you for the award. Thank you, Haverford. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Alumni Association. Thank you, Jerry. I'm delighted to be here.
Tom is here when you talk.
Okay.
Just a little spontaneity here. Tom Donnelly walked in while Anjan was speaking. Tom, we also want to give you a round of applause.